Well, hello folks, and welcome to this opening session of the IIC workshop on innovation and entrepreneurship at Graphic Era deemed to be university. I am grateful to the IIC for having me here and considering me as an expert for the opening session of this workshop. I would today be deliberating on the entrepreneurship and innovation from the perspective of career opportunity. And before we proceed, I would like to give you a brief introduction of myself. I am Professor Sachin Ghai. I've been associated with Department of Management Studies and Graphic Era University in capacity of program convener for the program of MBA in Innovation, Entrepreneurship and Venture Development. I hold a bachelor's degree in management and information technology and a master's in economics. I've been into teaching, training, and development and academics for last more than 2 decades, and have been actively involved in training and development, management development, research, consultancy, and currently involved in mentoring of startups as well. So today's session would primarily be focused at innovation and entrepreneurship, but since these are two extremely big disciplines to talk about, I shall today be talking about them from the perspective of business and entrepreneurship. So innovation would primarily be today focused at as a constituent, as an important component of raising successful businesses and enterprises. So that is what we'll talk about today, and I hope that this session turns out to be fruitful to you in pursuing your career path and establishing yourselves as successful innovators and entrepreneurs and startup founders and contribute in the mainstream development of the country. So before I proceed, let me just share the slide on the screen so that we can go along with it. So we'll be talking about innovation and entrepreneurship from a career perspective today. And let us first just quickly understand or get at least a foundational or a preliminary understanding about what innovation is. Let's take a very simple example and something which is very popular, and I think you would have been able to make this out of this image. An apple fell from the tree. What you would have really done if you were in place of Newton and you saw the apple falling from the tree. Most of us would have picked up the apple and eaten it. But there was somebody who actually found gravity out of it. I'm trying to put it in simple terms that innovation is all about seeing or going through what the whole world is going through, seeing what the whole world sees, but thinking, imagining, and doing something which others don't. And that's what innovation today is primarily all about. So if you look at the 21st century skills or the most sought after skills in the 21st century, and this is a report by World Economic Forum, and this keeps getting updated over a period of time, you would see that critical problem solving, critical thinking, creativity are somewhere at the top of the list. And then along with these, you have other important aspects like cognitive flexibility and the abilities and skills to negotiate and take decisions. At the same time, some soft skills like people management skills, emotional intelligence, and coordinating with others and dealing with other people are also top of the list. But innovation, when we call it, is quite apparent and visible as a component of these three important skills that we are talking about: complex problem solving, critical thinking, and creativity. It's an outcome of these three, and so it plays a very, very important role. In the business world also today, it sounds like a cliched statement, but it is a fact that the world is changing at an unprecedented pace of change. In fact, there's an inflection point in the pace of change in itself. And the primary changes that have happened have been due to reasons like globalization, technology, and changes in the concepts like or the perception of companies towards growing importance of social responsibilities. So innovation has become a very, very important component for businesses today in the way the business world is changing for two reasons. Number one, yes, the businesses are required to change because moving on from the earlier days of very fragmented businesses that companies did, they moved on to mass production and automation. And today there is an exponential growth in almost the demand for everything. Whether you talk about internet, whether you talk about mobile phones, whether you talk about computers, whether you talk about vehicles, there's been an exponential growth in all this. Not only in these areas, but if you talk about biotechnology, you talk about any industry for that matter, you see that there has been, or data for that matter, AI, data analysis. And the application of that in decision making for businesses, there's been an exponential growth. So to deal with all this, you require a great amount of innovativeness to leverage this data, this information, and this demand, and make the best out of it. Second thing is that the innovation, which plays a very deciding role in the success and development of any company, has been seen that it has come mostly out of the fringe. That means the most established businesses of the past decades for centuries, barring a few of them which have continuously innovated, most of the new companies that have emerged in the current era, or if you talk about the top companies or the IT companies that have grown over the last few decades, have come out of almost nowhere. So whether you talk about Facebook, whether you talk about WhatsApp, whether you talk about Instagram, whether you talk about companies like Google, whether you talk about Apple certainly has a slightly longer presence than Google and others. But then what we are here talking about is that most of the companies were not talked about as even existent in the early 19th century or 20th century that we talk about. So that's how the innovation has actually come out, and new companies have emerged out of it. And not just that, today you talk about Flipkart, you talk about Snapdeal, you talk about OLX, you talk about Ola, you talk about Uber, and there's an endless example of such big companies that I'm talking about, and the various startups that have also made it big over the last few years. So innovation plays a very, very critical role, along with the other, technical and soft skills that you need to, develop in order to succeed in entrepreneurship or in business management. So to work on these areas, it is very important for us to just quickly understand what innovation and entrepreneurship is generally all about. There's a lot of literature available on the internet and in the books, and I would just simply try to address the whole thing. Innovation is an art of bringing an idea into reality. It's about finding a solution to a problem. It's about creating, some kind of value out of a product, or out of any kind of novel idea that can be utilized to create, deliver, and capture value. And if that is so, if you're able to leverage that innovation into creating, delivering, and capturing value, you are pursuing entrepreneurship, or you're developing a venture that can be beneficial to the society. So innovation actually here, from when I'm talking from the perspective of business and management and entrepreneurship, I would not be just talking about innovation today's session alone. Probably in some subsequent session, we'll talk about innovation as a complete discipline, and then we'll talk about creativity, critical thinking, design thinking, innovation, problem solving, and so on in other sessions, in future sessions. But as of now, as an opening vignette, we need to understand that innovation turns out to be the fuel for successful businesses. It is a critical component, or it is an integral part of a successful enterprise or a venture. And if you are a thinker, an innovator, an ideator, then you have to actually look for those, not only for those ideas, those patterns, those problems, and those solutions, but at the same time, and that's what innovation is all about, but at the same time, you've got to develop a complete business model around them, a complete revenue flow model, a cash flow model out of it, a value proposition out of it, in order to develop a successful business proposition. So that means innovation, if it is about looking for patents, looking for new ideas, and developing those new ideas and products. Uh, the second part of it, that is, recognizing and shaping opportunities out of those products and developing complete businesses around them. That is where transformation of an idea into an opportunity happens, is what entrepreneurship are all about. So whether you become an entrepreneur, you start and raise your own business, whether you assist your family into their businesses, or you as an entrepreneur work for an organization and develop new products and services and businesses for them, you would require innovation, as the most important tool for being able to do so. So innovation is not just a free-flowing work of magic that manifests, organically. It is about tasks, work, structure, and strategy all combined together. So entrepreneurship is definitely is what where you're trying to leverage innovation and for various reasons. I'll be very honest to begin with. The idea of entrepreneurship should be taken simply as creating a living for yourself and for the people around you. If you create livelihoods, if you solve small problems, if you build businesses around concerns like the exodus and the migration out of the villages or your own city, you try to solve those problems. You try to solve those basic problems of what all things you import from outside and what all is that you can develop within the periphery of your city. What resources can you leverage? Which people can you involve in the whole process for uplifting them? All these are the fundamental aspects of entrepreneurship that we need. And at obviously at a very high level, when you believe in the Shark Tank view of big innovations and big businesses, that's also definitely a great idea. When you think of creating ventures which can scale up and there can be a big traction, and then you can convert an idea into a gold mine, and then it can grow and transform, into a mega business, and with investments flowing in and come and growing at a unprecedented and a phenomenal level. That's how you see that startups grow into unicorns. So all this is fine. So what I mean to say is that it requires a reality check. It requires a basic understanding of your strengths and weaknesses, clear SWOT analysis, an understanding of your resources and capabilities, your knowledge, your abilities, and based on that premise, you can add on with a bit of formal education, exposure, or exploration, or knowledge, or apprenticeship, and gain some knowledge and leverage that to develop your innovations into products and services, and further into some business propositions which can be valuable to the society and can help in creation of employment for others. So entrepreneurship is definitely a challenging and a dynamic field that involves generating and transforming ideas into opportunities and further into new and successful ventures or businesses. So that's where we are trying to connect the dot between innovation and entrepreneurship. Most of the ventures and startups actually are an outcome of an entrepreneurial idea or a pursuit, which could be a simple, incremental innovation, or having some innovative practice within the whole business model, or a complete radical innovation happening in terms of the product or the market development or the complete business model. So the startups definitely are an important component, or an important, I would say, outcome of entrepreneurial pursuits. Besides, obviously, there are other offshoots of existing companies that you see as new companies or subdivisions or brands or companies coming, new companies emerging out of the bigger existing organizations. So entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship would both leverage innovation, both would focus at creating value propositions and creating a business model which is definitely going to serve some need of the society, and in return capture value or return on investments. So just a few, important quotes. Entrepreneurship is about turning what excites your life, or excites you in life, into capital so that you can leverage it and do more of it and more, move forward with it. And that's what Richard Branson says. And that Branson, with his brand Virgin and various other brands that he has created, has been a celebrated entrepreneur. And entrepreneurism and innovation are our best hope to create a future world that's better than what we are experiencing today. And I think that's what's the crux of what I said, that the goal should be to create value. And when you create value, you deliver value to the society. And when I say value, it's about creating solutions, creating better experiences, empowering people, enabling lives, creating employment, giving better products and service experiences, increasing productivity of those people, and improving their life standards and quality of life, and so on and so forth. That is when you are moving ahead towards leveraging the resources that you have in terms of the natural resources, your creativity, your innovativeness, and you're creating the future. So that's how innovation and entrepreneurship should be seen at and looked at. So today our challenge is to both imagine and create the new technologies that can make the 21st century more peaceful and prosperous than the 20th. And that's what Peter Thiel and Blake Masters talked about in their book called 0 to 1. So entrepreneurship, if I after giving you all the complex understanding and a slightly more elaborate understanding of what it is, in simple terms, is all about all those acts or a series of acts which are involved in organizational creation or renewal or innovation that occurs within or outside an existing organization. When it is within an organization, it's more like entrepreneurship. When it is outside the organization or done by people exclusively, as an independent body, it would be entrepreneurship happening for them. And the challenging field of entrepreneurship definitely focuses on developing and implementing modern techniques. So when we talk about innovation, obviously somewhere we're talking about novelty and modernization in a business environment to efficiently run an organization, manage its people, develop new products and its services, and improve the overall delivery of those goods and services to the customers across the globe. And that's where you're creating, you're delivering value to the society and capturing back reaping back or capturing back the returns on your investment. Most of the businesses that exist today started out as some entrepreneurial pursuit. So even if you work for a unicorn startup or for a mega company, it would have once started as an entrepreneurial activity, and with some ambitious individuals capitalizing or leveraging on novel business ideas, some capabilities and resources, along with some forecast about the market and the future. And that's how organizations are built. So why? Why? It's become a big buzzword. We know that we are looking at these two logos on the screen. You have the Atmanirbhar Bharat, you have Make in India, and these kind of regimes are further encouraging the entrepreneurial development and startup development ecosystem. And yes, there's no doubt about it that there are tremendous opportunities available today, both in terms of the government's initiatives and the ecosystem in general that exists, where with technology and ICT and a level playing field, it has become even, I would say, easier for companies to or for individuals to think of startups and entrepreneurship and venture development. So the primary purpose, certainly, we talk from the nation's perspective first. So the primary reason for doing innovation and entrepreneurship is that this is an activity by which you just do not work for self, but you are in the process of creating value for others, and you're contributing in the mainstream activity of national development. So the whole national ambition of building a strong economy and independent or I would say Atmanirbhar economy, creating new capabilities or solving problems across sectors, developing entrepreneurship, creating employment through fostering of innovation and promoting of new ventures. Yes, that is where you would contribute by being an innovator somewhere, or even a business strategist, applying innovation in some aspects. You just don't look at innovation as a product development, but it could be an idea, it could be a service, or it could be some innovations in the functional areas of the business, whether it is finance, marketing, HR, or any area for that matter, or a completely innovative business idea. Or you could simply be tweaking a business model a bit, or applying a successful model from one place to another place where it can successfully apply. So from there to establishing yourself from the perspective of self-employment, and then generating and creating employment for all other people, and contributing towards their income sources, their income generation, and uplifting their lives. Entrepreneurship turns out to be a great and a noble career proposition. So, further adding to why you should be an innovator and entrepreneur, innovators and entrepreneurs play a very vital role in economic development, and they serve as the catalyst in the process of industrialization and the economic growth and development. As I said, you help people in generating incomes, you help people in giving them solutions to the day-to-day problems, you uplift their lives, increase their productivity, generate income and employment, and contribute to the economic growth, well-being, and development of the country. You could be working in healthcare, you could be working in technology areas, you could be working in social entrepreneurship, uplifting people's and lives, and adding them to the mainstream economy, and working on inclusive practices. Entrepreneurship and innovation go hand in hand in this sphere. So they are the change agents. The innovators and entrepreneurs are certainly the change agents who are constantly engaged in the pursuit of mobilizing their research, their knowledge, and the capabilities and the capital for the purposes like developing innovative products and services, developing enabling technology and platforms, solutions to problems, creating value, generating ROIs, developing markets, empowering and transforming lives, as I said, and uplifting standards and supporting growth and development. But along with all this, there's other advantages of being an innovator and entrepreneur. It helps you do what your passion is. And that's why there's a popular saying, if you do what you love, you never work for a day in your life. So that's what entrepreneurship is all about. It lets you sit at the driving seat and pursue your passion uh, with complete freedom and independence, and the way you wish to do it. Imagine a life where all your time is spent on things you want to do. That's a very popular quote. Now imagine giving your greatest attention to a project you create yourself. And instead of working as a cog in a machine that exists to make other people rich, you're at the same time, besides creating value for others, making yourself richer in every perspective. So that's what a quote that came from the $10 Startup, another very interesting book for you to read. So the key catalyst, the various researches that have been conducted across the globe to talk about the reasons why people get into entrepreneurship, and what are the factors that drive entrepreneurship, what all factors play a catalyst role in encouraging people to become innovators and entrepreneurs. Besides being a fascinating field and satisfying your craze for knowledge, for growth, even ego, and so on and so forth, and earning money, there have been some very important other parameters that have been noticed. And there's a report that was borrowed from Knowledge Commission Archive that talks about that in modern day economy, people are more enthusiastic to become entrepreneurs as they're driven by various factors such as independence to work. So that's what you want to do your own thing, you want to do things your own way, you want to be your own boss, and independence. The independence to pursue your dreams, to execute your plans, and even embrace failures. That's not a problem, but get room to do that is the independence that you look for. And the challenge seekers in life, there's some people who raise themselves with a growth mindset, and they become they crave for challenging jobs, and they try to transform, they try to do something that really can be a level up the curve. And these challenge seekers also pursue entrepreneurship to satisfy this appetite of theirs. There is a desire to fulfill dreams. So people have dreams, everybody dreams, but some people really work to make them turn into reality. Support for from family background, that's very important. Many a time it's just like that family businesses. You want your family business to be succession planning for your family business. And so a lot of youth wants to get into entrepreneurship and take care of their family businesses. And there's a lot of support also that comes from the families, whether in business or beyond business, for various reasons. Like businesses know certain advantages of being an entrepreneur, but a lot of people from service families also push their children into entrepreneurship, as they want that, there's something that can be inherited by the next generations, and the fruits of it can be reaped by them in future. And lucrative market opportunities are there. Certainly the trajectory for growth is phenomenal. I mean, there is sky is the limit. You talk about Paytm, you talk about Flipkart, you talk about Amazon, you talk about Google, you talk about anything. I agree that I'm talking about the successful examples here, but the fact that I'm trying to show here in this particular case is that there is a phenomenal possibility of growth. And as I said, all companies fundamentally were entrepreneurial projects mostly. So they've all risen to that level over a period of time. So lucrative opportunities and idea-driven mind. So that's also, an important parameter that works, that some people have developed that kind of key acumen of observation, of exploration, of creativity and critical thinking, and they have innovation at the hindsight, seeing what others cannot, and so that's also a reason why it's a great field for them to actually showcase the skill and leverage it for the benefit of self and the society and the people that work with you. So MBA can be one option for people to work on this career path. There are various programs there, from doctoral to masters to bachelor programs that help people to shape. But the point we are saying here is that these degrees in entrepreneurship would shape, factors such as innovative ideas, or a formal process of ideation, of design thinking, of identifying the market opportunities, of analyzing your strengths and weaknesses, exploring markets, shaping opportunities out of them, developing business models, understanding the empirical evidences that exist, and so on and so forth. And you can go through a very formalized training process of developing your entrepreneurial and your creative thinking skills. So that is possible. And at the same time, this would make the path easier with the right kind of orientation and training, and provide you a bird eye view of the discipline, practice, and trends that go on into entrepreneurship. But it doesn't mean that that's the only course of action you have. These skills can be generated, by other ways, by not just with a formal potential degree in this field, but you could be a technical graduate, or you could be just a plain graduate with some creativity, creative thinking skills, and practical understanding of these aspects that you develop democratically using the internet, or the experiences that you've had, or by interacting with the right kind of people. And that's also possible. So a degree is not mandatory, but certainly more often than not, it helps you get trained in organized common sense and pursue this path with greater ease, and you could reduce the gestation period and succeed. So we would come on that. We would talk about what are the possibilities by which we could actually traverse this path and gain technical knowledge in this area. But when we are talking about key catalysts in this path, we found that independence, as I said, to take decisions and to pursue your dreams, to take challenging roles every time, to achieve your dreams and desires, to leverage support from the family, to market opportunity that exists, grabbing that opportunity, and having an idea driven mindset which you want to leverage. All these have been the motivations to become entrepreneurs, and they have been ranging across studies, but then these are the major parameters that were found. And few studies have shown that for different genders also, today a lot of women, a lot of girls, a lot of ladies have also entered into entrepreneurship. Some studies, and I would just say that these are just a few exploratory studies. We won't just say that they're completely conclusive in terms of figures, but what we are showing is that studies showed that the primary reasons why probably males got into entrepreneurship were the independence, which was common to males and females, but it was seen higher in the females because they felt that by being entrepreneurs, they would have greater independence, given the kind of social setup we have, despite women empowerment happening. Then, but we see serious differences in, for example, the family background support, because obviously the family background support was mostly for succession planning, as supportive to the male entrepreneurs coming up, and females probably did not find that as the major motivation for them, relatively. And then, but when it comes to, on the contrary, the idea generation, when it comes to uh, the capability of having new ideas and seeing a prospect out of it, the females found that to be a great motivator, though it was even high in case of males. And then at the same time, we also find that certain reasons have been evenly poised at both the levels, like market opportunity identification. So as you traverse your path of entrepreneurship, and the time you spent into the whole activity, also the experience changes your motivation, and you have experience-based motivations happening. So it was seen very visible that family background could have been the primary reason for those who were early adopters of entrepreneurship for the first initial years of entrepreneurship. When they move on, spend more than a few years, maybe up to let's say something like a 5 years point in time, you find that this motivation is balanced by another motivation of being independent. They start realizing that they would grow independence in terms of independence and decision making ability, and they're seen as mature people, and that's also a great motivation, along with market opportunities, certainly, which people start exploring. The mind starts working when you get into the practical stuff. And then when people spend more time, maybe more than 5 years or anything less than a decade, you find that the independence grows in terms of great importance. And that's where you want to be on a driving seat and you enjoy doing it. And at the same time, other factors play their own roles. And towards getting more seasoned, spending more than a decade. This is just a study based on certain, surveys, and it showed that here, that is where the desire for independence is then overtaken by factors like aspirations, dreams, getting them, pursuing them, and grabbing the market opportunities. So that's what shows that as you mature and you get seasoned, you realize that actually innovation and entrepreneurship is a great way of pursuing your dreams, seeing a dream, understanding the market opportunities, and going and seeing that as a success and making it happen. And that's what the real motivator for innovators and entrepreneurs is. So they wish to transform the society. I'll slightly deviate and try to take you from a very different perspective, from maybe the literature that I read and a bit of spirituality that I follow. I've seen very close connections and lessons coming out of them for innovation entrepreneurship. I'll take just two very small stories. One is a very popular story of the three questions to Buddha that has been very popular across the globe, and then the price of the precious gem, a story that I actually witnessed out of the Upanishad Ganga, and somehow I was able to relate that to the business and innovation and entrepreneurial perspective. So the price of the precious gem is a small story. I'll just cut it short. That there's this a man who wishes to look for some secret mantra for success, and so he is on a hunt for the same, until he comes across somebody who tells him to look for a nice guru who could guide him and give him the secret mantra for success. So he goes to a rishi, he goes to a sage, and a guru, and asks him for a secret mantra to success. The guru tells him that, well, it's not easy to get something like this. You will have to work a bit hard, and you'll have to do all the due diligence and staying at the ashram and getting knowledge and wisdom, and at the same time doing the important task that other disciples do. And he'll be granted with that secret mantra. After almost several years, he goes to his guru, he does a perfect job and asks him for the mantra, and the guru gives him a precise mantra, which could be anything, but in this case it was the mantra of Om. And he tells him that this is the mantra, and go and practice it, and it'll transform your life. This man is quite excited. He goes out, he's very happy, and he thinks of practicing that mantra. But over a few days, he finds that this mantra that he was given was commonly being used by a lot of people. Somebody called it was a basic part of communication, right? You take a burp, you might have said Om. You met somebody as a part of greeting, you said Om Sai Ram or Om Namah Shivaya, whatever. People praying were saying Om Namah Shivaya and Hari Om and this and that, and people, even the beggar coming and using the term, and somebody granting alms to the beggar also used the term. So he was kind of, it was kind of a dilemma for him that after working so many years, I've been given a mantra which is no more a secret. Everybody knows it. And everybody knows it and has done nothing great to them. They're just average people. He goes back to the Guru and expresses his concern. And the Guru tells him, okay, fine, I'll give you another mantra, but what you do as of now is I'm sharing a piece of stone that probably was given to me by my Guru. And you take it out in the market, do not sell it, but just look for the right price for the product. The disciple doesn't understand much. He takes that stone, looks at it, goes out in the market, goes to different people, goes to a jaggery vendor and shows it to him, and the jaggery vendor doesn't understand anything. He says, why spoil my business at the early hours of the day? He makes an offer that, okay, I can give you a bit of jaggery in place of this. Goes to a vegetable vendor who again thinks that this man is crazy, but he somehow, in order to help, looks at the weighing scale, and he has a weight, and he says, well, I can trade this off with the weight because probably the weight seems similar. He goes to other people, a kind of, some make mockery out of him. Some say that, they would give something or the other, very average in place of the product that it was. The man is disappointed, and he finds no utility out of it. Until towards the end, he comes across a jeweler. And this jeweler, when he goes to him, he shows him the stone and tells him that what probably the price of that stone would be. The jeweler looks at it and tells him that it is a marvel in his hand. It is a priceless gem that he's having. And where did he get it from? When he told the story that he got it from his guru, he said probably your guru might have been given that, out of respect by some king or somebody, because it's a very rare and a precious and invaluable or priceless gem that you have. Anyway, he goes back to the guru and tells him that this is how it is. And that's when the guru explains him that, Om, the mantra, that the serious mantra, or the secret mantra that was given to him is because probably a lot of people were given such mantras by their gurus, or it is evident knowledge that is there. But how many of them seriously pursue it and use it the right way in order to attain whatever? In that case, it was moksha and supreme knowledge and so on, and enlightenment. The same way, when you took this gem, for some it was a piece of stone, some it was a useless waste, and for others it was slightly valuable to trade it off with some products. But the real person who knew the importance of that product, it was a priceless gem. So the moral of the story that I would like to just connect to innovation and entrepreneurship here is, the first part of the story actually shows you that there is no such secret mantra which is very unique to innovation and entrepreneurship. That yes, certainly that the experienced people and knowledge and education can provide you, or researchers can provide you that information ready at hand, or pass me down kind of knowledge that is available in academia or from the industry, or when you work under incubation centers or under apprenticeship to some startups which are experienced or serial entrepreneurs. But the point here is the patterns, the challenges, the problems of the society, the information, all this is existent. This is why it existed. There are people who are conscious enough, who have that eye for identifying those patterns, those problems, the solutions, or they have the ability, the cognitive flexibility to fit one idea with another idea to solve a third problem, which probably has not been thought of in the past, is what innovation is all about. And then once you have that innovation, you have that solution, you got to look for the right market, for the right kind of customers, for the right target market, which would give you the potential to get the best price of it. Pitching the right product in a wrong manner to the wrong people, or can completely be a failure. So it is the target market that you need to identify, which would give you the right price for your product. So if you understand these two things, the ability to creatively solve problems, innovate, which is certainly a very distinctive quality and the game changer. And then using that innovation, innovation would be useless if it is just for the perspective of satisfying your ego of doing something new. I don't say that all inventions were bad. Even inventions which could not be commercialized were inventions, but the benefit of that has to go on to the society. And so when you look at the personal computers, when you look at the mobile phones, when you look at the writing instruments, when you look at the automobile industry, or you look at the diesel engine, or you look the electric car technologies, these are the ones which have really transformed the whole world, and they have been mass customized and produced and made available to people in order to increase productivities and enhance their lives. So you have to build a business model. You have to understand the target markets. You have to identify the potential markets. You've got to penetrate into them. You've got to identify the right target markets. And many a times you have to diversify and look for the right people also who can pay you the right price for your product. So that's what the moral of the story, relates to innovation and entrepreneurship. The second precise story I wish to share with you, and again, this is something that connected me to my thinking of entrepreneurship and innovation, is primarily entrepreneurship. Once you pursue it and you're able to convert that idea or innovation into a business model, you also need to understand that it's important to create value. Profits and wealth is something that is subsequent, would probably come to you as a byproduct if you create real value for the society. This sounds a cliched philosophical statement, but believe me, it's a fact. Firms that only target at making profits would survive more often than not for a short period of time. But greatly, firms that become great are the firms that have created value, that have shown that concern for the people, their expectations for the society, and they've been able to certainly make profits, create wealth, enjoy the goodwill, and enjoy sustainability over a period of time. So the three questions to Buddha is again a very popular story which I came across probably on the internet, and it was all about that a poor homeless man was in desperate, dismal situation. Would one day bother about why his condition is such, and story talks about a mouse who eats his food away, and then he's desperate and he asks him, "Why do you eat my food? I have nothing with me besides." And the mouse tells him that that's a part of your destiny. So he wants to know why his destiny is so, and he asks the mouse, and he tells him, well, the answer lies with Buddha, and why don't you go and ask this question to Buddha about your destiny. So the young boy goes on, and he on a quest to meet Buddha, and on his way, when it gets dark, he finds a house of a wealthy man, and when he enters the house, he requests them to allow him to stay for the night because he was on his journey to meet Buddha. And when they ask him why is he going there, he said, "I had a question to Buddha about my destiny and my dismal state." So the family asked him to ask one question on their behalf also, that they had a daughter who was young, beautiful, but could not speak, and they were worried about about her condition, the 16-year-old girl who could not speak. And they said, "Why don't you go and ask him when will our daughter be able to speak?" So fine, he moves ahead the next morning until he finds the tough terrains and mountains to cross before he could reach Buddha. And that's again, he's worried, and he comes across a wizard who has a staff in his hand, and the wizard asks him where is he going, and he tells him the entire story, that he's going to Buddha to ask a few questions. And that's where the old man tells him that I'm a wizard, I'm a sage, I've been there for 1,000 years, and I have attained everything in terms of knowledge and salvation and everything. And I was supposed to leave the world and reach the heaven by now, but I'm unable to get moksha and go and talk to Buddha and find out why am I still alive and I'm unable to go to the heaven. He says, fine. The wizard gives him a staff, which is very powerful, and takes him across those mountains. And then, when he moves ahead, he finds a big river to cross, which is again difficult for him, seems impossible to him. And he comes across this big turtle who asked him, about where is he going and what are his plans. He tells him again the same story, he's going to meet. And the old turtle who who says that he's been existent for 500 years. He says, I was supposed to be a dragon, as I was told, as part of my destiny, but I'm unable to turn into a dragon. If you're going to Buddha, please do ask this question. The man says, okay, and the turtle helps him cross the river, and he finally reaches Buddha. And when he reaches, and meets Buddha, Buddha, talking to all his disciples, tells that everybody can ask him questions, but not more than three. So the man is in kind of a dilemma that he had three questions from three different people which he had to ask, and one of his own. So which question should he drop? He starts analyzing and he realizes that, well, in my case, my problem is difficult. I'm a homeless man. I'm poor. I'm in a dismal state of affairs. And then there is this girl who's just a 16 years, and she has to live her, entire life. And if she cannot speak, I mean, it's a terrible state she would have. And then there's this man who has been, on planet for 1,000 years, done everything, and still waiting for, uh, you know, getting the end of his life and attaining moksha and reaching the heaven. And then there is another turtle who has locked for 500 years and still waiting, to be a dragon. So my problem, he felt, that was relatively much smaller than the problems of these people. Some had their future at stake, and some had already had 1,000 or 500 years of suffering. So he asked the Buddha the questions for these three people, and the Buddha gives him an answer, which on his way back he tells to all three. So when he goes back, on his way back, he reunites with the turtle and tells him that Buddha said that if you leave your shell, right, and that's like the cocoon, the comfort zone in which you leave your shell, you'll transform into a dragon. So the turtle understands the problem. He leaves the shell. A lot of gems and jewelry and precious stones out of that, fall out of it, and the turtle grows into a dragon, and he tells him that I don't need those gems. I'm a dragon now. All this belongs to you. The man gets richer. Anyway, he goes ahead, and when he goes and meets the wizard, he tells the wizard that Buddha is of the opinion that you are unable to free yourself from this body and from this planet because of your love and affection, and your tying up with that staff that you have, the powerful staff. The moment you leave your attachment with that staff, you'll attain that salvation, and you'll be off this body, and you'll be off to heaven. So the powerful man understands his mistake, and he hands over his staff, the powerful staff, to this boy, and actually attains moksha, and he proceeds to heaven. Now with the staff, the boy gets powerful. He's got wealth. He's got staff, powerful staff with which he could do anything probably, and he goes on his way to the house of the family that had given him shelter the other day. And that is where he finds this girl, and the family asks that when would the girl be able to speak, and he says, Buddha says that she'll be able to speak when she meets her soulmate. And that's where they look at this boy, and who's been a wonderful boy, and he's got everything with him, and they decide to marry their daughter to him, and she finds his soulmate into him, and she's able to talk. And finally, this boy has everything way back to his home, even without getting to ask the question that he wanted his answer to. And he is able to see his destiny change. So if you look at the whole story, the purpose of the story could have been various lessons coming out of it. But if you again look at it from an entrepreneurial perspective, these are two very important lessons of life. Many people have the abilities, they have the innovativeness, they have the creative mindset, they have the skills, they have the knowledge, they have the abilities to develop organizations. Some of them work as employees, some become entrepreneurs. But to become entrepreneurs, you've got to come out of your comfort zone. And that's what it said. The moment you come out of your comfort zone, like the turtle, or like the man who gave away staff and the power and craze that he had for being powerful, at one place, all this that holds you as a cocoon. If you unleash yourself, if you come out of that comfort zone, you'll be able to meet your soulmate. And your soulmate is, you'll be able to pursue your dreams and do what you love doing. You'll be able to embrace that life that you love. That's the first thing. The second important thing is that when you work for the service of others, like this boy did, for him, the questions of the other people were more important and he felt that he should do something for them. That's where a business should think about. The business should be should have a meaning for existence, a purpose for existence, a mission, a motto, or a mantra for being existent and to serve the society. And if you're able to create that product, service, or experience, or a platform for enabling people in society, create value for them, success is bound to come to you. Profits, return on investment, sustainability is definitely going to be there. So that's the point. So if you talk about innovation and entrepreneurship, I would just say you all are born creative. You all can develop your innovative abilities. It's just that, with your experience, with your education, with your professional experiences, and how much concern or consciousness you've shown towards these, some of you have developed it, others might have been seeing them lagging, but you can further develop your creative acumen and your innovative abilities. You've got to find these, create an understanding and eye for appreciating the patterns, the problems, the data, the information, and then try to find creative solutions to those problems. And creativity doesn't happen in a watertight compartment. It's based, and not just something that you would just one find a sit and you'll get it as the gift of the gap. It has to be practiced. It has to be nurtured. It has to be developed, because cognitive flexibility, as I said, is very important. The knowledge that you get has to be, first of all, it's not just about cramming. You've got to understand it, and then you have to apply that. And when you apply that in a real world, there may be a lot of things happening not the way you expected them. So you've got to analyze why it happened, and then while analyzing, you've got to create some solutions. And when you create something new, you've got to evaluate whether it will work or not. So that's when you think about business models, and you evaluate whether those business models will work. What you think would be the right thing may not always be so. How customers take it is another very important thing. So when you build those markets, when you build those strategies, it's only possible when you develop your abilities and competence in that area. So that's where you have to be innovative, and then you have to build a successful model, a value proposition, and complete, package of solution, functional and other answers to questions in order to find the right customers, the right markets, the right product propositions, position yourself well, product well, and so on and so forth. So, and lastly, focus more on creating value for the society, money, return on investments, and everything will come back. So that's probably the mantra that I wanted to share with you based on these stories. Now, I'll just take you, before coming to this topic, I'd just like to take you to, back to what I was talking about. So if you look at some successful companies, some great companies, I'm as of now just not touching the startups and the young entrepreneurial organizations that have come up. If you look at companies like 3M, if you look at companies like Google, if you look at companies like Apple, Amazon, Tesla, various others, some have been working on great amount of innovations in niche areas and volumes of innovations to make lives better and improve lives of people. Some have been working on a particular product and just developing that to its perfection as a complete experience, like Apple has been doing with its devices. And then some companies like Google are trying to democratize information and making it easily available and bringing in softwares and tools and experiences that can enhance your productivity and give you the best of the experiences with their products. You have all these companies creating value, and growth, success, and sustainability is just following. So the point here is, if you look at 3M, the Minnesota mining and manufacturing company, they have more than around 60,000 products in their kitty. A company which is more than 100 years old in terms of its existence. And you talk about products, they have the completely valuable products in niche areas, and products that probably are completely differentiated from the company. A company which is into mining finds innovation as a part of their culture, starts developing products, and 60,000 products, right from a post-it to a 3M cloth, a microfiber cloth, to the reflectors on the road, to using healthcare products, so on, different chemicals, and all the technology that you have are specific areas they've been working on. And in many areas, they are just exclusive, and there is no competition for those products. So that is one culture of innovation that you're talking Another aspect is you may not be working on volumes of innovation like that, but you're trying to work on innovations on a particular product or a service and taking it through to an extreme level of, of perfection. And that's what you saw with companies like Apple and others. Try to democratize computers and make them available to people. And then with their iPods and with their iPhones, they've tried to give best experiences to people, product that just gets one with them and gives them the complete experience uh, of using a perfect product or a platform that can help them enhance their technology capabilities, from DTP to the mobile internet experience to photography to so on and so forth. Companies like Google, brought a lot of softwares which not only give you the best of the productivity solutions, right from the Drive to the Gmail to so on to so forth. And as a matter of fact, they try to democratize information with their search engine and work exclusively on those areas. You look at Tesla trying to completely transform the world into a complete carbon-free, or getting into um, battery operated cars and electric vehicles. So that's what the companies have a vision of offering something to the society. You look at SpaceX and others, might seem that they are not working for, probably may seem that not working for the SpaceX project may not be inclusive for the whole world, but they might have a very serious outcome of that happening in terms of how they see the future application of these technologies. So all these are examples of some trying to be on the curve, on the innovation curve, and try to bring perfection, some jumping off the curve and try to bring maybe some crude and crappy products which can be completed over a period of time. But innovation, and innovation with a purpose, with a cause, and with an object to create value, is what these companies have been trying to do. So what are the characteristics? I've just talked about the skills of 21st century. I would not talk much in detail about these characteristics. The slides are there for you. You would see that these are the basic, and it's not an exhaustive list. I mean, you would find many more qualities that you need as an entrepreneur. But what you find is that there are certain qualities, certain traits, and certain skills, a combination of two, the hard and the soft, that you require to become an entrepreneur or an entrepreneur. And to be an entrepreneur, you have to be somebody who has a goal, who is passionate to pursue his dreams, who has a far sight, and far sight would come with knowledge, with experience, with reading, with exploration, and a lot of research that you do. You have a belief in yourself, and I tell you, belief not only just comes out of, it's an emotional state, but it comes out of knowledge. Because knowledge is a function of, confidence is a function of knowledge, and knowledge gives you a lot of self-belief, because self-belief comes from success, self-belief comes from past experiences, and at the same time, self-belief comes out of a real SWOT analysis of yourself, and you know that even during adversity you don't give up, and you have the courage of conviction to rise up and fight back again. So that resilience, that tenacity, that grit, that growth mindset, that when people don't ask, why is it happening to me, but they say, why not me? Why shouldn't I go ahead and do this? Well, positive frame of mind and optimism. And they have a standard of excellence, which is very important in entrepreneurship. For everything that you do, you just don't do it for the sake of it, but you try to have a standard of excellence into everything that you do. I'm not talking about here the word perfection, but standard of excellence means creating some value, some outcome, some revenue, some profit, some utility for somebody out of it, everything with a purpose. And then being disciplined, respecting time, respecting other people, respecting professionalism is what successful entrepreneurs are all about. And amidst all these, you would also find some qualities in them. They have to have good creativity skills, good critical thinking skills, innovativeness, people management skills, negotiation skills, marketing skills. That's what you develop over a period of time. It doesn't mean you have to have all of them to begin with, but the point here is, as you grow or as you pursue the path of entrepreneurship, you realize all these are important, and you slowly and gradually start implementing. If you are an innovator, the moment you get into entrepreneurship, you will realize how important understanding of the markets is, and that's where we will generate those skills. If you are not having the right people skills, you will have to develop them when you look for the right co-founders, when you look for the right team for people to work with you, and empower them. And that's why I said that to get all these kind of skills together, it would only come with knowledge and practice. And that's the reason I said that formal qualifications can be very useful, pursuing courses, the modern day courses like Master of Business Administration in Innovation, Entrepreneurship, and Venture Development, or Master of Business in Science, or Masters of Business Administration in Entrepreneurship and Family Business, are the kind of courses or programs that can really help you get all these skills generated, uh, you know, because of the pedagogies that they follow, and develop that mindset over a few years' time, for making it easier for you to pursue in terms of knowledge, in terms of skills, abilities, and cognition to pursue entrepreneurship. Very interesting Harvard study shows that, published in the Harvard Business Review, shows that creativity also is an outcome of not just creative thinking skills. Many a times we think that since I don't have a creative thinking skill, or I just have it, it's enough. No, creative thinking skills that you have, which can be also developed over a period of time, we'll cover them someday, along with an internal sense of motivation, a passion to do something, and also to convert those into rewards, into revenue, into results and outcomes, along with your expertise, which includes your knowledge, your education, your experience, your professional experience, and the collective wisdom of all the people you work along with, getting the right people with you to work. All these collectively result in creativity. So that is the first requirement for you to be able to recognize opportunities in the market. Once you are able to be creative and to recognize those opportunities, those solutions, those patterns, that is when then you have to shape those opportunities and become an entrepreneur from an innovator. And for that, you would have to understand the art of creating business models, creating value propositions, developing markets, developing strategies, taking decisions related to economics, finance, HR, marketing, and so on and so forth, and develop a complete successful venture. So ideation, POC, prototyping, incubation, if you look at these processes that people follow, you would find a clear understanding of a combination of innovation, right, along with a complete business model development of a minimum viable product and a minimum viable business plan, until you are able to then develop and incubate a business out of it. And that's what is the need of the hour. Sometimes passion alone does not work. Passion has to be prepared. Many a times, passion is the reason behind success and failure. Passion gives you the goal, it gives you the endurance, it gives you the perseverance to attain it. And it should be like that you would do anything in order to attain it, in terms of, if there's a skill you don't know, you would develop it. If there's something wrong you're doing, you try to correct it, but you would try to reach the goal, even if you have to change the path. But passion turns out to be dangerous when you're not prepared, and you just try to convince yourself and convince others about your idea, and you just keep following it without making a reality check. And that's where businesses fail, because when you don't have a reality check, it's just your idea, it's your thought, it's your conviction, but many a times, it's different from reality. So you've got to be rigid, you've got to be stubborn, but you've got to be flexible also, in terms of having that mental agility and preparedness and openness to learn and change your courses of action, or change your way of doing, or if you find that there's a difference between what you know and what the reality is, you'll be ready to accept it and keep going and pursuing your passion. Doesn't mean you got to change it, but the point here is you've got to execute that with perfection. So a clear mission, a clear purpose is more important than the product or the service that you are producing. Why are you doing that is very important. So when let's say, for example, if I as a teacher has to think about what business I am in, my business is not teaching. That's just the product or the service or the job or the occupation. But I'm in the business of what? Of transacting knowledge, of attaining knowledge, of imparting knowledge, of sharing knowledge, and enabling and empowering people to take decisions and transform their lives and my own life. So that's the idea. So we can dwell on that further as a complete philosophical statement that is inspiring enough for me to understand. And then that mantra, that mission can be converted into a small mantra or a punchline that can be understood by a lot of people who are into it. So it could be research, it could be academics, it could be consultancy, it could be whatever is part of functions. And that's where the real knowledge helps. Peter F. Drucker, the father of modern management, if we talk about him, he said that the two primary functions, though we know that all functions in management are important, of any successful business or an enterprise are primarily innovation and marketing. And that's exactly what you would understand from these two words, innovation and entrepreneurship. You got to understand that innovation is about developing right solutions, and marketing, getting the right market. It's not just a push approach, it's a pull approach. You got to understand the problems and create those solutions rather than just trying to create a product and then fit it into some sort of right place where it can become a solution is generally more difficult. So you've got to do that. And this requires a complete research mindset, knowledge, training, abilities, and skills and capabilities. And so that's where a formal degree and education can help. So mentoring and support are two first important things. Then besides mentoring, money, mentoring gives you the right methodology, and then you need money and you need the markets or the medium to grow your business. So there are a lot of requirements, but initial mentoring and support, is very important. And mentoring, as I said, you have a lot of, though it's not mandatory to have specific educational requirements for becoming an entrepreneur or for being a successful innovator, but strong educational background and work experience or in that particular area, whether it is innovation, research, or entrepreneurship and management, can make the probability of success slightly higher, even strongly higher. And it can reduce the gestation period for you to learn all that by experience. You could learn that quickly by getting this organized common sense in those programs and then experience some, because all these programs have practicality into them. They have field works and they have real-time practical implementation combined with theory and practice combined together. So that's how it reduces the gestation period and helps you attain that competence for being a successful innovator and an entrepreneur. So while successful entrepreneurs are generally well trained and qualified in the field, specific education qualifications can vary. And if you want to be, let's say if you're technically very sound, you can be, if you work in the capacity of just an innovator, you could be working with some research department, research lab, or a research organization, or you could be a chief innovation officer somewhere. But at the same time, if want to take that into entrepreneurship, or you want to work somewhere, you can be an entrepreneur, work with companies which are expanding, coming up with new products every time, and they need such people who can be, a combination of employees and entrepreneurial qualities or enterprising employees and can bring innovations. You call them entrepreneurs, but you can also pursue entrepreneurship. So there are a lot of programs, as I said. The program that we run at Graphicra, I don't know how many of you are aware of it, is an exclusive focused program on innovation, entrepreneurship, and venture development, which is open to all students across all walks of life. And whether you're a technical engineering graduate, a technical graduate, or a graduate coming from other traditional fields, but if you have a desire, passion, and the kind of competence to get into this field, it's a fantastic platform for you to master the art of being innovative and at the same time launch your venture. MBA entrepreneurship are the old running programs that run in a lot of institutions. MBA in family business management, MBA in business and science, are a lot of programs that encourage innovation and entrepreneurship. Acceleration programs are conducted at a lot of accelerators. If you're a technical person, want to launch a product, you could go for quick prototyping to these accelerators. If you want to learn more the art of business incubation or developing a business model, and along with the innovation, you can go to TBIs and incubators like the TBI we have here. And to entrepreneurial, if you're already doing a program, you can be a member of the entrepreneurial development cells or institution innovation council like the one which is here. Then there are other ways. If you want to develop a venture in a particular area which requires a certain expertise, the ITIs, the polytechniques, and the CSTS or the skill development training centers, all these can give you a lot of possibility to go, and whether you want to learn the art of designing or prototyping, or finally want your product to be manufactured, and if you know the marketing and you know where to pitch it, you can do all that. Startups and other organizations also promote entrepreneurship, and they also handhold a lot of new startups, so you can benefit out of that. And entrepreneurial networks, innovation clusters, online platforms are great resource for people to learn. So internet almost is turning out to be a completely global resource hub, or I would rather say a completely global operating system for businesses. So that's where you can find a lot of resources. So Eric Ries in the book The Lean Startup said that startup success is not a consequence of good genes. So it's not necessary you have to have it in your DNA or being in the right place at the right time, as a lot of people say. They attribute their failures to bad luck or something. People who have an internal locus of control are the ones who make it successful. Startup success can be engineered by following the right processes. It requires understanding of the right processes. Experiences definitely help you further along with it, which means it can be learned, which means it can be taught. And so these programs and a professional training in these areas of innovation and entrepreneurship, programs like MBA and IB and others can also greatly help you in developing your business acumens and your entrepreneurial and innovative acumens. So this is just a glimpse of the program that we run in association with TBI AICT, and the program, is under the aegis of MHRD Innovation Cell, and a unique program. This was earlier by 4 institutions, now it is by 15 institutions in the country, but a fantastic program for you to pursue your innovation or entrepreneurial dreams. So the online resources, I think there are plethora of courses, programs, courses, massively online open courses, and at the same time, a lot of books that are available and a lot of online resources that are available. These are some of my recommendations, which I could just quickly recollect, but I have found them to be instrumental in helping me develop my knowledge of understanding management, venture development, innovation, entrepreneurship, and value creation. And I would recommend these books. You must take out time to read these books, which are on the right part of your screen. And then a lot of sites which can give you a lot of inputs to learn about these areas, understand the jargons, the terminologies, the processes, and right from the initial design thinking approaches, or how to take an idea and get a POC done, or how to prototype, or how to develop a business model. You have all these sites available, and I'm sure you can take advantage of all these. Career prospects towards the end, I don't call it career opportunity. To me, opportunity grabbing is what entrepreneurship is all about. Creating opportunity is what innovation is all about. So I would not call it a career opportunity. I would rather say taking it from the career prospect to be an innovator or an entrepreneur. Yes, there are a lot of options that are available. One, you could pursue your family business, apply innovations, take it ahead, scale it up, and diversify, enter new markets. You can do anything. So from new product development to market penetration to market development and to complete diversification and disruption, you can apply innovation at any level. A lot of companies have done disruption, and they are technological disruptions sometimes, and there are sometimes pricing disruptions also, or complete business models that help companies disrupt the whole business. There are blue ocean strategies, which we'll talk about someday, wherein you completely apply innovation to enter into uncontested fields, and you come up with products which are probably not even thought of. And I gave you example of companies like 3M, and a lot of new startups are also working on these ideas, and some great companies also worked on it. Companies like Google and companies like Apple, when they thought of the products that they've made, were completely like blue ocean projects that they had. Then startups or innovative ventures is what you can develop. So you can be a startup enthusiast, and you can aspire to launch your own startup or venture. You can even work. Many a times there's a lot of pressure from families to take up a job and get some experience and then get into entrepreneurship. In case it is so, you can work for organizations which encourage entrepreneurship, and you can launch, be involved into new projects and develop new products, businesses, or services for those businesses. And for example, companies like Google have been working on so many great products, and continuously innovating on different projects and products they're coming up with. Could be good examples for you to work with. You can be corporate managers also, so which is normally what others do. But then, yes, you will have an edge over the regular MBAs or the technical students if you have understanding of innovation and entrepreneurship. And then you could be chief innovation officers, chief strategy officers, or you could be on the board of directors for companies and advising them. You could be an advisor or a mentor or a coach to startups. You could be a business consultant. You could also work with some incubation centers and accelerators, and you also have the possibility of being into academia and contributing in entrepreneurship development and teaching the whole idea of entrepreneurship and innovation. And also, if you really become successful and you wish to become an investor, you could be an angel investor or a venture capitalist, or be associated with a venture capital firm. So endless opportunities. Towards the end, I'll just show you a glimpse of how a startup ecosystem is all about. It's a whole set of these stakeholders that exist, and so you can have a place for yourself, either as an entrepreneur or as an entrepreneur or as an associate in any of these areas. And you could be anyone from an entrepreneur, as I said, running your own startup, your own venture, your own business, or being a partner. So startup ecosystems, they are formed by people. So people obviously performing different roles. There could be startups, there could be various types of organizations, both physical, virtual, as they say, interacting as a system to create startup companies. And you would avail all these, wherein people require the policy support, they require finance, the culture of entrepreneurship, the support to pursue entrepreneurship. Sometimes you need a technical prototyping support from coming from somebody. You need a market research support from somebody. You need a market validation to happen by a professional body, and so on and so forth. You need capital support from venture capital or angel investors. You need government policies to get the right capital for your business. Then getting the right people, human capital, and finding the right markets for yourself. So complete ecosystem of all institutions, academic, research, business, government, non-governmental, then the networks of entrepreneurs, the incubation centers, the accelerators, all these collectively, and the venture capitals and the angel investors make collectively the startup ecosystem. So you have tremendous opportunities falling your way, and you could be either a startup founder or an entrepreneur or one amongst any of these stakeholders that I just talked about. Finally, there's just adding up to it. So universities, academic and research institutions, government departments, private and industry associations, research labs, startup incubator accelerators, co-working spaces, all these venture capital companies, investor networks, crowdfunding portals, you have tremendous opportunities. And not just that, as I said, allied areas. Besides being a coach or a mentor, you could be an academic, or you could also be a startup blogger or somebody who covers startup businesses. So if you're a mass comm graduate and want to just completely talk about startups and all that because you have a knack for it, you could also do that. So a legal person practicing law can have his own legal startup for supporting, giving legal support services to different startups, or telling them about company incorporations, taxation, and so on and so forth. So right from being a startup supporter to having your own startup, and at the same time to be an investor or anyone amongst these startup elements of the startup ecosystem, you have tremendous opportunities available to you. So all it's about, the culture, the ecosystem of entrepreneurship involves, as I said, it covers everything from culture, human capital, and education, to business environment and support that you require, innovation, to access of finance, to access of entrepreneurial networks, access of markets. So to sum it up, right mentoring, the sources of money, and the methodology to enter the market are what you can get out of the ecosystem to help you, and you get further by being a part of the ecosystem, help others with these aspects and help them grow. So that's how startups are not only empowering self, it's empowering others who associate with you. So what are the elements we've just talked about? There could be different elements, as I said: funding organizations, support organizations, service providers. They charge you and they give you the service. The government bodies and organizations and agencies like DOI and MSMEs and various other, Startup India, Startup Uttarakhand in this case, research organizations, and even large companies, they all form, and startups primarily form the part of the startup ecosystem. Finally, towards the close, you may also have to understand that if you are into an innovation and you're planning to start your own company or a venture, if you start your own venture, it could be anything from, as I said, from sole proprietorship to a one-person company to a LLP to a limited liability partnership to a complete PLC or whatever. But you got to understand, if you really want to take advantages of being a startup, then you got to understand how a startup, which is definitely an offspring of a venture, a new venture, but with certain specific characteristics. So you would be able to take advantages of startup policies and call yourself a startup company when you meet certain criteria. So otherwise, you're just a company or just a venture. You could take other benefits like benefits of MSMEs or various other policies, but to get the benefits of startup support system and startup policies, then you need to be very clear about what a startup is. You can launch a one-person company and gradually convert it into any form of company, which is possible, but you got to understand what startups are. A startup is any company which has an age less than 10 years in terms of from the date of incorporation. It should be either a private limited company, which is a PLC, and or a limited liability partnership or a partnership firm, as we said, registered partnership firm. We'll talk about all these in detail. I'm sure in one of the sessions we'll be covering the pros and cons of each of these. Then the annual turnover has to be less than 100 crores, and the entity has to be original. You cannot just think of splitting an existing company or reconstructing an existing company or a business of yours and converting that into a startup. Which is not possible. And innovative and scalable. This is a quality, and that's the reason other businesses also look at marketability. They also look at target markets. They also look at business models and revenue flows. But the most important aspect of startups is because there's something where you're creating a company, you're expecting a long-term sustainability, you're expecting people to invest maybe many a times. It has to have scalability and traction. So for that, it has to have innovation in it, some aspect of innovation. It doesn't mean that it has to be an innovative product alone. It could be a service, a business model, or a combination. And it should work towards development and improvement of products, as I said, of processes, or of the entire service that you're offering, or even in the functional areas of the business. And it should be scalable, something that can have attraction, can be scaled up, and can expand in terms of the market, and can get you a serious escalation on demand, and your cost and your revenue inflows and your profitability and so on. So growth plans play a very important role in that. Scalability plays a very important role, and that's where startup differs from a simple venture that you launch. So it has to be a high potential business for creation of wealth, resources, returns, and at the same time, mass employment. If it is having these characteristics, yes, your company can be considered eligible for the startup recognition. So I wanted to cover a few topics on innovation and, but then I thought that we would probably cover them in some sessions where we talk about the art of innovation and the process of innovation and all that. I just wanted to, towards the last slides, tell you how companies have done innovation, and then how startups also are involved into innovation in different ways. Mega companies also innovate in order to stay in the market, in order to come up with new products, or have a competitive advantage over other companies, or give a complete value proposition to your customers. So companies like Apple, companies like Google, as I said, at large levels are doing, IBM, and so on and so forth. It reminds me of a very popular case of Titan when they came up with the Titan Edge series of watches, a watch which is just probably slightly over 3 millimeter in terms of its depth, and they came up with this problem, and we covered this case in innovative strategies that firms develop. They wanted a sturdy, a sleek, a presentable, and a day-to-day wearable watch which was sleek and at the same time which was water resistant and dust resistant. Now, this was a big challenge, and it's an example of how firms do a lot of thinking and out-of-box thinking and apply innovative strategies and innovations at different levels, and then combine them as a project and try to give a complete experience. Now, it was oxymoronic. It was difficult to have a day-to-day watch, which is elegant also, at the same time have a dust-free, water-free watch, which cannot be opened that frequently in order to make that way. And then it has to be thin, and to be thin, if it has to be worn every day, you need a good battery life. And in a thin watch, putting in a big battery was out of question. So it was a big, complex problem for them to solve. Until they had different teams that worked on these challenges as extreme challenges. And they wanted a watch which is thin, but yet sturdy. So they replaced the glass with a sapphire crystal glass, which was strong, thin, and sleek and strong. They converted the casing, which had to be waterproof, dustproof, thin, and yet strong. And they came up with, instead of metal, they went for the titanium casing. And finally, the challenge was, how do we fit a battery, which is small enough and still gives you a lot of power and support for a long usage. And that's where they took this as a challenge of reducing the function of the motor and making a more efficient motor out of the system, which was 50% less power consuming. And at the same time, they worked and they outsourced a battery which was smaller and could provide you almost double the capacity. So they reduced the functions, they reduced the power consumption, had a smaller battery with greater support, and they were able to combine all these as a project. And that's where Titan Edge saw the light of the day and made Titan one of the fifth largest companies in the world. Still a masterpiece. It's an elegant watch, less than, as I said, a 3 millimeter thing, including everything, where the motor, I think, is just probably not more than, the function part is not more than 1 point, probably 5 millimeters or so. So these are examples. IBM worked on the Stockholm traffic problem by completely out of box thinking. Then you had different companies performing different kind of innovations, either at a larger business model. As I said, complete model can be innovative, which is a blue ocean strategy, or you can bring innovation in your products, into your pricings, into your packaging, into your promotion strategies, into your different functional areas, or completely as a business value proposition, and and also contribute towards issues like sustainability and so on and so forth. And that's where innovations are a part and parcel of any organization, whether you work for one as an entrepreneur or you start one as a startup founder or an entrepreneur. Innovation takes you at the driving seat. Some of the examples of startups I wanted to cover, but I'll rather talk about the startups within the campus, because you're already aware of startup stories, and I've already shared a few websites wherein you can read a lot about those startups. Your Story and other sites are very popular for telling you about grassroots innovations happening and new startups coming up. Sunfox or D-Town Robotics, which is working into robotics, and they're working into AI now, and they're working into other projects, successful startups that came out of traffic era. Sunfox worked on the smallest ECU machine. There are other startups incubating, and some of them have successfully incubated here as part of support from the departments, from the management department, from the technology oriented specific domains that they're working in, from their own departments and the TBI. And some of those businesses that you see below are ex-students from management who were developing their businesses during their education out here, and Discovery Hike and Alliance and iCert and Hilbus and Garrison Designers and so on and so forth. The many ONIs, they have also developed their business with understanding of the technical domain, the innovation part, and the market strategies from obviously the management domain, and combine the two in order to launch out successful ventures. So all I would say is that yes, we are there to help you, the entire ecosystem of the institution, along with now whether it is the Department of Management, the program of MBIEV, or the faculty support that we have, the Entrepreneurial Development Cell, or the Institution Innovation Council, or the TBI, all collectively are here to help you transform your dreams into reality. You have an idea, you want to develop the acumens of developing products, services, and businesses that can transform the future, that can contribute to the economy and serve the purpose of, large, by and large, welfare of the whole community. And if that is so, we are there to help you in this purpose. So I wish you all the very best. All I would say is be creative and make this world a better place. And not only bring the change you wish to see in this world. Thank you very much. And there, if you have any, you need any guidance on your startup ideas, or in developing them into business models, or in any form of strategies that you need to make, we are there to help you. Have a wonderful day. All the very best. Thank you.